In this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 new watches that have made the cut for my watch collection. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always, and we're in my house today. We're in socks and an old man cardigan, and every year we do a watch collection video. So I know that a lot of you will have seen the previous watch collection video. So what we'll do is we'll cover the watches really quickly for those new subscribers out there, and then after we've covered those watches, we'll take a look at the new watches in my collection. And there's 3 pretty special models. Okay, so we'll just cover this really fast. The first watch that I have in my collection is the Tudor Black Bay ETA version. Technically speaking, this is the Gen 1 version. The reason that I like this is because it has the ETA movement, which makes it slightly thinner, and it also has the rose that has since been taken away from the Tudor Black Bay range. Next up, I have an Oris Artelaire skeleton watch. Now, although this watch isn't my typical style nowadays, don't really like leather straps, it was my first watch ever that my parents got me, and it means a lot. After this Oris Artelaire skeleton watch, well, not really in order, but I got a Tissot PRX. This is the new Tissot PRX that came out about a year ago, and it has the green dial. Now, I actually regret buying this watch because I kind of like the icy blue variant. After that, we kind of go into divers with a kind of underrated diving brand. We have Certina, the Certina DS Action Diver. Now, this was actually gifted to me from Certina, and it wouldn't be specifically the one that I would go for because I'm not a fan of PVD, but I do quite like what Certina are doing with that diving range. The next watch, well, not technically the next watch, not really in order, but the next watch that I got was the mechanical Hamilton Khaki Field, which I broke. And also, they sent me off to Canada, to Banff, with their new, I don't want to say it yet. It's coming at the end. It's one of the new additions to my collection. The Omega Seamaster 300 meters is the watch that you guys have heard so much about. The watch that you guys have heard too much about because I don't shut up about it. And I need to apologize for that. But that is a watch in my collection. With that said, there are some changes that are coming surrounding that watch that I don't want to leak too much yet. But let's just say my tastes are changing a little bit. I'll talk about that in a bit. And then after that, continuing the trend of Omega, I got the Omega Moonswatch. This, again, isn't in order. I went to Zermatt with Adrian. We were filming a project, and I managed to pick one up with him. As I say, watches are linked to memories for me, and that was a cool memory. One of the key watches in my collection, one of the ones that was kind of an unexpected buy and also an unexpected one for me to go for, was the Grand Seiko American exclusive. This is the SBG 387, I believe, and it has this beautiful blue dial. It's a limited edition. Now, again, we've covered all these watches in my previous watch collection video, so I'm just going to glaze over it. Finally, we have the Casio F9 1W. One of my favorite watches in my collection. This thing goes everywhere with me, whether it's travel, whether it's work, I can take it literally anywhere. And I've also, this is my 3rd iteration, I believe, of this watch. Because it's so cheap, you can just keep buying it. But listen, this is the kind of core watch collection for me. So you guys have seen this. If you want to see the full breakdown of that, we've got a video that we can link up the top right. Now we get on to the 3 new watches. One was impulsive, one was gifted, and one was considered. Guess which one I regret. Right, so the first watch that I bought this year, the first watch that I got is this. This is the Seiko 5 Sports X Peanuts Limited Edition. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I got this, and what we're going to do is we're going to break down the personal reason, and then we're going to dive into the specs of the watch and why I kind of like each watch's style. So the reason that I bought this in the first place is kind of because I was having a change in my life. I used to do a lot of travel. I used to essentially be a travel videographer that would travel the world. I'll say travel one more time for those at the back, and film stuff, and that was my life. At this point, when I got this watch about 7 or 8 months ago, I then was slotting into work in Glasgow full-time in Scotland. And it meant that I wouldn't be allowed, not that I wouldn't be allowed, but I wouldn't be able to travel as much as I previously did. Now, this was great for me because it means that I was finally settled, and although travel looks cool on on the screen and through social media, there are downsides to it as well. I mean, you can't really sustain a relationship when you're away all the time. You can't really buy a property when you're not in the country. There's lots of things that travel limits you and restricts you with. And it was a big change for me. So this watch kind of represents that new start in work and new start in life, because I'm not as young as I used to be. Aside from the personal aspect, there was other features about the physical watch that I really liked. And I'll talk about this in more detail towards the end, but I'm starting to get more into smaller watches. I think tastes are kind of changing for me. And this comes in at 38mm. So it did suit that smaller category, but it still looks a bit more bulky because of that side kind of crown coming out around about the 4 o'clock mark, 5 o'clock mark, which is quite unique to Seiko, especially Seiko 5 Sports. It comes in at 12.1mm in thickness, which actually is more like 13mm in thickness because of that NATO strap. It has a double pass NATO strap, which pushes it a little bit further off the wrist, which kind of is annoying, but you know, it's still quite a small watch. But yeah, there's tons of limited edition flex on this watch. You've got the paw print on the crown, which is really, really cool. You've obviously got Snoopy with his surfboard on the dial. You've got the text around the bezel, which is used in the Peanuts magazine, which is really cool. And then also on the back of this watch, you have Peanuts, or Snoopy, on his surfboard. Lots of cool details, and this watch represents a pinnacle period in my life. However, I regret it. Now, the reason that I regret this, not majorly, but the reason that I have a little bit of buyer's remorse for this is because the next watch that I got in my collection kind of replaced it in a lot of ways. The next watch that I got was this. This was gifted to me by Hamilton, but it's quickly become one of my favourite watches. It is the brand new Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition. And let me talk about the emotional attachment before I get into the specs. Both of these watches are they're not similar in the classic sense, but they're both white dialed watches. They both come in around about the same size. They both have NATO straps. They're both relatively similar. Now, what I've found is the Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition has taken up pretty much all my wrist time. Don't ask me why, but it just has. And sometimes that happens in your watch collection. You just end up subconsciously favoring one model over another. It doesn't mean this model's bad in any way, but for some reason, subconsciously, I'm favoring this model. Now, this watch was gifted to me, and it was gifted to me at a pretty pinnacle moment in my life. I had just got a new flat in Glasgow, where I live, and at the point where I got the new flat, Hamilton, I think it was the same day, or maybe it was 2 days after, flew me out to Banff, Canada, to film this watch, to launch this watch with them. I flew out with Adrian, a good friend of mine, and we had an amazing time in Canada, a truly once-in-a-lifetime experience. Now, my personality and my hobbies align directly with what this watch represents. It represents adventure. It represents new starts. It represents that adventurous lifestyle that I kind of love the idea of, and I've always been a part of. So it just fits me more than the Seiko. Now, yes, there are things on this watch that I don't like and that I think that they could improve. But as an overall package, it's just absolutely phenomenal. And actually, I'm going to teach you a lesson really quickly, especially for those new people that are watching this video that are just getting started on their watch journey. Never judge your watch or a watch from the strap. Never pick up a watch and say, I don't like the bracelet on that, so I'm not getting it, because it can always be replaced and it totally changes the personality of a watch. For example, this comes with a leather strap and a bracelet, neither of which I like. I'm going to just be quite frank. There's things that I don't like about leather straps just from a general standpoint, general taste, and I just aren't that keen on the bracelet. But when you change this over to a NATO, which is what this is, it looks absolutely incredible. Now, I actually took the NATO from my old Khaki Field Mechanical and slotted it on this. And I think that kind of fighter green, that kind of army green matched with that white face, there's something just really cool about it. This watch does come in at 965 quid, so yeah, it's more than double the Seiko. The Seiko comes in at about 350. So yes, maybe the fact that I was gifted this has an influence on my overall decision. But I honestly think, and I don't think that I'm just saying this, I think I would have got this either way because I had broken my khaki field mechanical. Anyway, let's get on with the specs. This comes in at 37mm, but they also come in at 41mm. Now, if you want my opinion, it's that the 6.5 inch wrist I have suits the 37mm better than the 41. And actually, Adrian Barker, who I went to Canada with, and you guys might know, he got the 41mm and regretted it subsequently. So he actually wanted the 37 after trying the 41. It does have a compass around the outside of the dial, which is really important, and it does work. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've used it before, because I haven't, but the fact that it does work, and the fact that you could use it, is pretty cool. This model comes in at 11.45mm in thickness, which is pretty damn thin, and I'm such a fan of thin watches. With that said, with the NATO strap, the sacrifice you make is that it does push it slightly up off the wrist, so it maybe goes to 12.5mm in thickness. Having said that, you could get a single pass NATO strap instead of what I've got at the moment, and that would mean it would be that little bit thinner. Now, that's something that I probably will do in the future. It has the H10 movement, which gives it 80 hours of power, has kind of tanned looking hands and indices, which gives it kind of a vintage rustic feel, and it has Super Luminova, which shines pretty damn bright in the dark. And one of the memories that I'll never forget about this watch, a memory that really means a lot to me, is we were out in Banff, we'd been out shooting all day, and I said to Adrian, listen, we're gonna shoot some nighttime photography. We're gonna do some really cool long exposures. Adrian and I couldn't be arsed, we're not gonna lie. We were up at 5 a.m. that day trying to shoot the sunrise, but we kind of dragged each other out, and through peer pressure, we ended up at the place, this lake. And you should have seen it. It was the most beautiful thing I think I've ever seen. The stars lit up the night. You could see the Milky Way, and the reflection on that lake was stunning. Now, to top it off, we actually got a long exposure of this watch with the lume and the stars in the background, and that's a cool memory. And that's the Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition, a watch that I have, I can't swear on this, a lot of memories with, and I am obsessed. It's probably getting the most wrist time out of anything at the moment, and I think it's partially to do with the size, partially to do with memories, sentimental attachment, NATO strap, my lifestyle as an outdoors kind of guy. It just takes over my wrist. But the next watch is it's controversial. I'm just gonna bring it out. Let's just do it. This is the Blancpain X Swatch Scuba. I picked this up 2 days ago from when we're filming this, and annoyingly, this comes in at the same price as the Seiko, pretty much. I'm a pretty impulsive guy. I have legitimately booked holidays with people that I have never met and left the next day. That is the kind of person I am. So it comes as no surprise that I got this pretty damn quick. But you just can't deny that it's cool. I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of that promotion. I wanted to be a part of this really cool marketing that Swatch are doing. And I'm also a huge fan of Blancpain. And with that said, will I ever be able to afford a Blancpain? Maybe in 20 years. I don't want to wait that long. So this is the natural next step. You know, you might not like it, but I think you can't deny it. This was a really smart move from Swatch. No matter what people say, so many people that were unaware of the Blancpain brand are now aware of the Blancpain brand. Now, what happened with the Moonwatch, and this is backed up by a quote from Mr. Hayek himself, the Moonwatch sales, subsequently to the Moonswatch launch, went up 50%. That is ginormous. Now, if we think about Omega, they are the second biggest player to Rolex, really. And that is unbelievable growth. So let's say that Blancpain after this watch get a 10% spike in the 50 Fathoms, or the Blancpain brand. That is still ginormous, and it's still a huge amount of eyes that have found this incredible brand. Now, there's little details on this watch that are actually really, really cool. For example, they use actual movement. Now, yes, it is plastic and it is a swatch movement, but it goes back to the history of Blancpain because they've never used a quartz movement. Blancpain are the oldest brand in the world, not in continuous production, because that goes to Vacheron, but in the world, and they've never used a quartz movement. And this, a Swatch watch, has kept that incredible heritage and story running. I think that's pretty cool. The thickness of this watch comes in at 14.4 millimeters in diameter, but you have a double pass NATO strap. I think this is something that watch brands, if you agree, let me know in the comments, should include on their website, because when something has a double pass NATO strap, it pushes it more off the wrist. It just is thicker. So if something's been sold with, it doesn't matter. But anyway, it does wear really, really thick. It is a big, big boy, but it's a nice boy. It's a cool boy. It's almost like a spice boy. You just love them, but you don't know why you love them. Now, the dial on this watch, what attracts me to dials, as you might have seen in the previous two versions, is the cleanliness, is the symmetry to the dial. And I am a sucker for white dials. Now, having something that's white with grey in there, keeping those colours really, really neutral, it just looks great. With that said, it's totally unfunctional, because I reckon if I were to wear this watch for periods of time, extended periods of time, I would definitely get it dirty and get it wrecked. I mean, it's almost like having a white pair of shoes. They're not white for long. Now, a little detail, a little fleck of flair that they've popped into this model that actually had more of an impact on my buying decision than anything else was the little detail on the movement. They've actually put a piece of wildlife from the indigenous area that wildlife is from. And I think that's really, really cool. When I was growing up, one of my big inspirations was David Attenborough. I always loved David Attenborough. And actually, my dad would get very upset with me watching stupid crap on TV. But if I turned on David Attenborough, I always remember him being okay with me watching that until late in the night because it was educational. So I've got a huge thing for animals and wildlife, and I just love the fact that they've used a little piece of wildlife on the back of this. And that is the impulsive buy, which concludes our updates to the watch collection. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really means a hell of a lot to me, and I'd really, really appreciate it. Follow our Instagram, Chisholm Hunter Watches. Remember that we have exclusive VIP members only deck where we do podcasts and we talk about watches. You can join somewhere below, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.